Every year there's a silent threat carried by mosquitoes that affects millions of people across Asia. It's called Japanese encephalitis, and it's a really serious brain infection. But here's the most important part. It is preventable. So in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what this is and how we can fight it. So let me ask you a question. What could possibly connect pigs, wading birds, and a deadly brain infection? I know, it sounds like a really weird riddle, right? But the answer actually uncovers this fascinating and pretty dangerous natural cycle that's right at the heart of our story today.
All right, let's kick things off by digging into the scale of the silent killer. We'll get into what this disease is, where it hits the hardest, and how it got its original name, summer encephalitis.
So what we're talking about here isn't some rare, obscure illness. Japanese encephalitis, or JE, is the #1 cause of this kind of brain swelling in Asia. But the key word here, and you really got to focus on this one, is preventable. That means we already have the tools we need to stop it.
Okay, to really see what this looks like on the ground, check out these numbers from India back in 2019. Now, we see over 2,500 cases reported, but they're not spread out evenly at all. You can see these clear hotspots in states like Assam and Uttar Pradesh. And that is so important because data like this tells public health officials exactly where they need to focus their time, their money, and their resources.
Okay, so we've got the what and the where. Now let's zoom way in and meet the microscopic culprit behind all of this.
So this is it. This is the Japanese encephalitis virus, JEV for short. Think of it like a tiny biological message, a single piece of RNA code all wrapped up in a protective shell. And yeah, it hangs out with a tough crowd. Its cousins are the viruses that cause things like dengue and Zika.
And this is not a new enemy. We've been dealing with this for a long time. Just look at this timeline. The virus was first noticed way back in 1871 in Japan. During these outbreaks, they just called summer encephalitis. It took decades before scientists could even isolate the virus itself. And now, today, it's a persistent threat all across Southeast Asia and India.
So how does a virus this tiny cause so much trouble? Well, it's all about this really complex network it uses to get around, this deadly web, with the mosquitoes sitting right in the middle. Let's break down who's who in this story. First up, we've got the vector. This is basically the getaway driver for the virus, and it's the Culex mosquito. This specific kind of mosquito just loves the rainy season. It breeds in all those flooded rice paddies and pools of standing water you see all over rural Asia, and it becomes a carrier simply by biting an animal that's already infected.
All right, player number 2, the reservoir. These are wading birds like herons and egrets. They're kind of the natural keepers of the virus. It just circulates in their blood, doesn't really harm them, which means they're a permanent source, making sure the virus never really disappears from the environment.
Okay, now for the real game changer in this whole cycle, the amplifier. And this is where pigs play this incredibly dangerous role. Because if a mosquito bites an infected bird and then bites a pig, the virus just hits the jackpot. It doesn't just hang out in the pig, it multiplies like crazy to insane levels, basically turning that pig into a virus factory. And all of this, it brings us to the final player in this drama, the accidental victim. And that's us. That's people. If a mosquito bites one of those infected pigs, which is now just teeming with the virus, and then bites a person, the chain reaches its tragic conclusion. We aren't even part of the virus's normal life cycle, but we're the ones who suffer the absolute worst consequences. Now, this is a really important point. Once a person gets infected, the chain breaks. See, unlike with pigs or birds, the amount of virus in our blood is just too low for another mosquito to pick it up and pass it on. That makes us what's called a dead-end host. The virus's journey stops with us. So, what actually happens when the virus manages to get past all our defenses and actually reaches the brain? Let's take a look at the devastating human impact of this disease. Okay, you have to understand this concept. It's called the iceberg phenomenon, and it is absolutely critical. For every single person who gets really sick, the tip of the iceberg that we can see, there could be 300 or even more people who are infected but have mild or no symptoms at all. This means the virus is spreading silently, right under the radar. But for that one unlucky person, the one who does get seriously ill, the progression is just terrifying. It can start out feeling like the flu, with a fever. But then it can just explode into the acute stage, where the swelling brain leads to confusion, violent seizures, even a coma. And from that point, you're at a fork in the road.
either a long, tough recovery, or for so many, a lifetime of permanent damage.
And the numbers here, they're just grim. The case fatality rate can shoot up to 40%. Let that sink in. That's 2 out of every 5 people with severe encephalitis who might not make it.
And for the ones who do survive, the fight is far from over. Up to half of them, are left with permanent, life-changing damage. We're talking about paralysis, constant seizures, or severe cognitive problems. Their lives are just changed forever.
Okay, I know. After hearing all that, it's easy to feel a little hopeless. But here's the thing, it's not. In this final section, we're going to talk about our shield, the powerful tools we have to fight back. All right, if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. There is no cure for JE. No magic pill, no antiviral drug that can stop it. All doctors can do is provide supportive care, manage the fever, control the seizures, and hope the person's body can win the fight. And that stark reality makes one thing crystal clear. Prevention is everything.
And our number one tool for prevention? The vaccine. It's safe and it is incredibly effective. If we just look at India as an example, they use 2 main types. There's a live but weakened version of the virus that's given to kids in high-risk areas. And then there's an inactivated or killed virus vaccine that's used for older kids and adults, including people who travel to these regions. So this leaves us with a really big, really important question, doesn't it? We know the science. We understand how the virus spreads. And we have a powerful vaccine that works. So why is this preventable disease still taking hundreds of lives every single year? Well, the answer isn't really about medicine anymore, is it? It's about the much harder challenges of public health, of getting vaccines to remote areas, and making sure communities have the information they need.